my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Over the last many years, Daily Magic Games has been creating popular games in the world of Valeria. They just launched a Kickstarter with 3 new titles in Valeria. One is a trick-taking game called Thrones of Valeria. It's a game where the citizens of Valeria would be playing in a tavern or barracks. The other 2 games I'm going to be diving into the details of in this video. Those are a roll and write game called Dice Kingdoms of Valeria, and the other is a solo dice and card castle defense game called Siege of Valeria that can be played in an individual session or in a campaign. All 3 of these games take 30 to 45 minutes to play and are ages 10 and up. So let's jump into a high-level overview of the last 2 mentioned, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components you see here are not final, they're prototypes. You want to check the Kickstarter link in the description of this video to see the most updated art and components. First, we're going to start off with the roll and write called Dice Kingdoms. Now this is for 1 to 5 players, but there are rules in the works for playing with larger groups as well. Each player is going to start off with 2 sheets, a castle sheet and a map sheet, and this is how they look like at the beginning of the game when they're blank, but let's jump into what happens by the end of the game. Here's some completed sheets, so let's show you what you're trying to do. You're trying to have the most points at the end of the game, and you're going to get points in all sorts of different ways, like being able to color in all different stars. Each star you color in, no matter where they are around the maps, they're all over the place, and in different tracks, you'll be getting a point for each of those. In the maps, you're going to be connecting different domains, and each one of those that you are able to connect, you'll be getting a point for one of those. You'll be trying to slay monsters and be the first, hopefully, to do that, because if you're the first one to do that, you're going to get the top points. If you're the second or later, you're going to get the bottom points. And as you gain gold, you're going to be able to visit the plinth, and that will allow you to draft statue cards, which will give you new objectives, like scoring 3 points if around the castle wall I'm able to reach any of the stars. Each one of those would be 3 points, or 3 points for each of the plinths I was able to go to, or even an additional point for each of the domains I'm able to connect. And through all that, you're trying to have the most points, so let's talk about how these work and how the turns work. On your turn, you're going to roll all of the dice. First, the 2 black dice are the harvest dice, and they're used by all players simultaneously, whether you're the active player or not. You'll be using both of these numbers and the sum, so a 5 and a 6 and an 11. Now for the harvest, we're going to look at all your citizens, which are up here. Anywhere we have a colored in pip, we'll be able to activate that. So we'll be able to activate the 5 and the 6, but not the 11 because it's not yet filled in with the pips. So these are going to activate 2 different types of citizens, and there's 4 in the game. And those are Holy, Worker, Shadow, and Soldier. And those icons match the ones that we're activating. You'll simply put in a pip for the amount of pips that you have here. So 1 for 5, which is the workers, and 1 for the 6, which are the soldiers. And you're going to be moving down these different guild tracks. And in these tracks, and most of the tracks in the game, you're working left to right and top to bottom. Then only the active player is going to select one of these actions and either use that die or the sum of that dice with the blue bonus die. For example, we could activate the road, which is green, and we can use the green 2 plus the 4, so 6 paths on the road. And when you're filling in pips, you'll start from the top and work your way down, and when you get to a domain, you'll cross it off. That will be worth a point at the end, and you'll get a bonus. Some of them happen every round, like you can manipulate the red die plus or minus 1, but when you get to a domain, the rest of the pips on the road that turn are lost. And let's say the next time I got 3 more pips for the road. You can build off the top of any of these, or off any of the roads that you've been building, or off any of the domains that you've already connected. And now I'm pretty close to connecting to this next domain. And as the game goes on, you might be reaching places that give you an immediate bonus, like recruiting a certain type of citizen, like Shadow. And recruiting shadows allow you to now, when you get to use the harvest dice, it's adding pips for activating that citizen, but there's lots of comboing between the different tracks, because as we see here, gets us a gold, which allows us to go here. And if we're able to get to a plinth, we're able to draft one of these objective cards from the statues. And these will do different things, like 2 points for every bridge we've gone over on our roads. Like these ones. Or a point for every 3 coins, or a point for every 2 stars we filled in. Now, once you've activated all the dice, then it's the next player's turn, but remember, everyone's harvesting each round. And when taking actions, the yellow die allows you to recruit, which is what I just showed you earlier, recruiting a citizen, where the red die allows you to go slay monsters, which is moving down these tracks and being able to be the first one to slay it to get the better points, or if you're the second or lower, you'll get the second amount of points. And with the bonus die, I either could have put one here between being 1 through 5 for red, or adding them together and maybe doing 11 over here. Certain bonuses like this allow you to move down the castle wall, giving you other bonuses like going down the monster track or even getting stars. The game ends once any player has finished 3 of the 4 guilds. Everyone adds up their points. Whoever has the most is the winner. We were looking at the summer map. There's also a winter map where you need to actually reach a specific domain in order to be able to try to slay that monster. And of course, the roads and the maps are different. And so are the different guild track bonuses. Now let's take a look at the second game in this video, Siege of Valeria, which is a solo card and dice game that you can play as individual games or a campaign. Now here you'll see a castle, and you're trying to defend this. You're trying to win by taking out all of the sieges, both here and in the deck, by the end of the 7th turn. But there's 3 ways to lose, one of which is if a siege engine gets into the vanguard, which is the line closest to your castle, and when this line activates, if there's a siege there, you'll lose. Also, towards the end of the round, when this vanguard activates, if there's a troop here, it is going to place an impact token right here at this part of the castle. And if in doing so it added the 4th to this specific spot, you'll also lose. You're going to be destroying these troops throughout your turns, and at the end of the round, if you need to fill this up and there's no troops left, meaning the troop deck's exhausted, you'll also lose. At the beginning of each round, you're going to roll all your dice. At the beginning, you'll have 5 red soldier dice and 2 blue holy dice, but the number and mix of the dice in your pool will change throughout the game. Soldier dice give you strength, and holy dice give you magic. Then you're going to resolve all the sieges. Now, this is the vanguard, and this is rows 2, 3, 4, and 5. They all start in row 5, but they'll change as the game goes on. And you look and see if they attack. If they're in the black in row 5, nothing happens. But if they're green, then you'll do what the ability says. Like this one's going to make us re-roll one of our 5s. So this one will start hitting you in row 4, this one not to row 2, so they differ in the types of sieges there are. Then you'll go to the event phase where you'll resolve an event like Lucky Shot, where you'll have to activate one of the sieges that's currently out of range. Then you're going to use your dice to attack enemies and sieges. You can only attack the front card of any enemy, but as the round goes on, you might destroy some enemies, and now this is the front card because they don't move up to the end of the round. When attacking an enemy, it shows you how much you need to spend in dice in order to defeat it, like this has a 5 of strength. Now we could use this single 6 to beat it, but it's overkill and by default, you lose the rest of that. Or you could use multiple dice, like these 3 and these 2 to get the 5. You can also mix strength dice with magic dice, like we could use this 3 with this 2, but you can't use just magic dice to defeat this. Some enemies actually require magic, so in this case, you cannot use a strength dice for these 3, they all have to come from the magic. So we could spend, let's say, this 3 and this 2 to defeat this, and when you get this, it goes into your hand, and you can use this ability anytime you want. So for example, we could spend this now to flip one die to its opposite side and make this 1 a 6. So there's lots of combos you can build. You also start with 2 troop cards in your hand to give you some opening abilities to be able to use. Now the sieges get a little bit easier as they get closer, but they also become more dangerous, because remember, if the siege hits you from the vanguard, then you'll lose. But let's say we want to spend this 3 magic for this, and let's say we want to spend a 6, which is overkill by default. You don't get to use the overkill, but maybe I have this in my hand, and I could spend 2 additional pips. We had more than 2 to kill an adjacent strength or magic that's adjacent. So we could kill this completely with that 1 move. Combos are great. If you're able to take out a siege, you'll get a powerful champion to place to one of the empty spots in your castle. They do crazy powerful things like re-rolling 2 spent holy dice, but then Sir Nathan goes away. But you might have this wizard that you can use 2 magic versus a siege, where usually you can only use strength. This would flip over, meaning you could use it again starting next round. After you're done with your actions, you'll activate the vanguard, and any troop here is going to add an impact token. Remember, if it's the 4th one in that spot, you'll lose the game. However, there are ways to remove this by, in the action phase, discarding a die to discard 1, or if you have a face-up champion there, you can discard them also to get rid of that impact token. Then the troops in the vanguard will get removed and the battlefield will advance, bringing everyone closer and bringing sieges possibly now into range. And if you had taken out any sieges, new ones would come out. Then you'll be drawing 4 troop cards and placing them towards the top in those empty spots. And if you have to draw a troop card and there's none left in the deck, you lose. Now, whether you win or lose, you will get a score on how good or bad you did. Now, you can play Siege of Valeria in a single game or in a 3-game campaign where you can win some and lose others, but the fate of Valeria is tied to your overall performance. Now, as you win games, you'll draw a campaign bonus to use in the next game, but if you lose, you'll draw a campaign penalty and apply its effect. And at the end of the 3rd game, you'll look at your overall score to see how you did. Well, there you have Dice Kingdoms of Valeria and Siege of Valeria. Now, if you'd like to see the most up-to-date art, components, and more info on Thrones of Valeria, along with all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video. Now, that's going to take you directly to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure that Daily Magic Games would love your support.